Anybody on from the audience? Craig, can you tell?
There are a couple call-in numbers that I do not recognize. So yes, we do have audience.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to Lower Gwinnett Township Board of Supervisors meetings, a regular meeting for April 14th. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so now that we can all hear you, this is a unique experience for Lower Gwinnett. Everything you do tonight is going to be recorded, and it will be audio recorded, and it will be posted on our website. Tonight's a little unusual. We've never held a virtual meeting, and Tom Spears is our solicitor. And Tom, could you explain to the audience what a virtual meeting is and the legislative underpinnings that allow this to happen?
Well, what's happened is that because of the governor's COVID order, we could not have a public meeting. It'd be limited to 10 people, and that's not practical. The staff would be there, and then we would have to bar the audience, and that's not permissible either. So what we're actually, the legal basis for what we're actually operating under right now is guidance from the Public Records Office telling us that their interpretation of the Sunshine Law, because of the emergency declared by the governor, allows you to not have to abide by specific formalities. And they've endorsed this type of meetings as long as the access is reasonably and open to the public. They've been notified on how they can participate, and it would have to allow a form of participation, which Zoom does for those that have signed in. Unfortunately, the actual legislative underpinnings, last week I sent out a bill that passed the Senate that actually spelled out the details for these meetings. But this week the House has declined to consider that bill. It's Senate Bill 841, which was bipartisan, vast majority of those, maybe even unanimous in passing. But the Senate has not. The Senate passed it. It is sitting in the House right now. So our legal authority is the declaration of the governor of the emergency and the guidance and interpretation from the Open Records Office, who interprets the Sunshine Law for the state.
Great, Tom.
This meeting is permissible.
I appreciate your input. Carol, could you let the record show that the Board of Supervisors held an executive session on March the 20th to discuss a real estate matter? I'm sure a lot of the people on the call, a lot of the township residents want to know how we're doing, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. I checked the county website. There's a map out there. It's called a heat map to find out how we're doing relative to the rest of the county. Right now, Lower Gwinnett, on the county website, Lower Gwinnett's got 50 positive results in 7 deaths. Not a good situation. We have asked Frank Baxter, our EMS director, to join our meeting and give us the particulars and the details that at least that he can share of what's going on in the township. Frank, do you have a minute?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gray. Just to have everybody understand, on about March 17th, because of the COVID-19 cases starting to creep up in Lower Gwinnett Township, I requested that the township invoke a disaster declaration, which was done and accepted by Montgomery County. So we really have been operating underneath that since March 17th. Some of the things that we've done to help prepare the township, we put together a emergency services leadership group, which we have been meeting on a regular basis, virtually, of course. to discuss any matters of the township. So just to go over who's on that committee for discussion, Mark Gray, of course, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Tessie was included as the chairperson of the Emergency Services Group. From the township, it was Craig as the township manager, Chief Paul Kenny for the chief of police, myself as the emergency manager, Al Comley as the fire marshal. Then we had two public works representative, Randy Reinhardt and Mitch Culp, both who are joining. We also, from the emergency services group of Lower Gwinnett Township serving the township, Jay Ledbeater, who is the chief of Wissahickon Fire Department, Matt Trainer, the chief of North Penn, and Dan Azef, the chief of Ambler Ambulance. So we were in constant contact. We've had a couple virtual meetings, as I said, just to make sure that each of the departments are okay. They had any questions, I was there as a support to guide them through some maybe procedures we had to think about and changing as far as response with the police department. Chief Kenny and myself worked very closely on and helping him develop his, and he did a fantastic job preparing the police department for who knows what to expect in the future. And so far, knock on wood, it's paid off. I'm also responsible to sort of keep touch with the 4 nursing homes within our township. We all are probably very aware that this particular virus is one of the target audience is the elderly, and we're being very supportive of our 4 long-term care institutions, and I do check on them with quite a bit to see how they're doing. There is a lot of cases within the nursing homes, but each of the nursing homes feel very strongly that they have a lot of support from their corporate offices and actually from Montgomery County. They also are with a healthcare coalition that gives them a ton of support if they need resources. As Mark did say, once a day we get what they call a situation report from Montgomery County on overall status of Montgomery County and the state of Pennsylvania. We are very much supported by Montgomery County. I am in constant communications with Montgomery County as needed, but as sadly, to repeat what Mark said, we are right now at 50 in the township with 7 deaths, and that's of today's report. I really don't know what else I can add. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we can accept questions.
Yes,
right?
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Brandt.
Could you tell me, out of the 7 deaths, how many were attributed to the elderly, 75 or higher, and any of them were residents of the 4 retirement communities?
I don't have that information at hand, and I don't want to speculate where the deaths are coming from, but I know they are coming, again, noted as Lower Gwinnett Township. So I'm assuming probably the nursing homes probably had 1 or 2, and I can get that answer to you, sir.
I would like to, when you can, share it with the supervisors. I think we'd appreciate having that.
Yes, sir.
Frank, I've got a question for you, and it has to do with proportions. So I looked at other townships in their numbers versus their deaths. That's the ratio. Considering how low our overall infection rate is, 50, we seem to have a pretty substantial death rate. Is there any analysis been done on or speculation as to why that's the case?
I haven't had the opportunity to talk to Department of Health on that, Mr. Gray, but I would say that right now, out of the 50, the 50 cases of positive COVID-19, over 50% is in nursing homes. I can share that with you. So that could be a major factor.
Yeah, we have a large population of older 65 in the township, that's for sure. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for our EMS director?
I'd just like to add,
I have one. I have one for you, Mark. I thought I was on the emergency preparedness subcommittee, and I was surprised not to be included in that meeting. But that's just to you. You could answer that later. Doesn't have to be tonight.
All right, Frank. And Ed, thank you for that. Does anybody else have any more questions for Frank?
if I could just add one thing, that we are fielding all emails, any questions on email at contactus@lowergwinnett.org. And I have that up waiting for anyone that has questions that is on the phone.
Okay. Craig, do you want us to share that email address to any residents they may have questions?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Could you repeat that again?
It's contactus@lowergwinnett.org.
All right. Contact us at lowergwinnett.org.
Correct, yes.
And does that go into you and then you answer that, or
That goes into.
how's that handled?
Yep, there's 3 staff members that are constantly looking at that email throughout the day, but
Okay.
also during this this meeting as well.
All right. Well, good. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Kenny's on the meeting notice. And Paul, could you share with us how you see the police department performing and any issues or concerns that the force might have? Paul?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear it?
Okay, sorry
Yep.
about that. I was on mute. So the police,
Oh, you weren't listening to us?
I muted myself so you could hear me better.
Oh,
That little button, push mute. The police department's doing great. Everybody is healthy. Everybody is available so far, and our equipment is doing well. I think we're leading the pack in some of the equipment we have and the preparedness that we have in place. In fact, we added slip-on booties to our feet, to our boots this week. We found that they're saying that this virus, lands on the floor, and you really need to be careful about cleaning the bottoms of your feet. So the officers now, if they go to certain calls, they're putting booties on and disposing of them. We're doing great on equipment. Calls for service are still way down, and that is not unusual. The whole county is seeing this. And it's due to there's not a lot of traffic. Traffic accidents are way down. The businesses are still closed, so calls for service at businesses are down. And people are home, so their alarms aren't even going off because they're home. So it's understandable why calls for service are down. Medical calls are up. Some serious calls are up, which does cause some problems for us when we're trying to social distance. But all in all, the guys feel great about the conditions they're working in with the equipment that they have and the processes that we have in place to clean the cars and keep themselves healthy. We are having a service come in on Saturday that's going to fog our police cars and put a repellent down. I'll call it a repellent. They're going to put a chemical down that will not allow viruses to grow for 60 days. EPA is approved that, It's a safe substance to spray. Even if you have canines can lick the seats right afterwards, and it's healthy. It's not going to hurt anybody. So we're doing things to prevent the spread. We are still responding to medical calls, and we're not going in unless needed. We have had a couple cases where we did have to go in and provide first aid, CPR or whatever, for an immediate response. We are still tracking all of our officers for any calls that they have where they do come in contact with somebody or each other. We have a database going back to 2 weeks now that will tell us all the contacts the officers have had for fear that somebody does get the illness. We'll be able to track it and separate and quarantine anybody that needs to be quarantined. Lieutenant Gargan's still working from home, and that's working out well. We've separated all the offices as best as we can. And that's working out really well also. So I'm free for any questions, but really the guys are doing great.
Paul, could you tell me or tell us what the school resource officer is doing during this period of time?
So obviously with school being closed, she is following up. We still have some child line referrals coming in. She's doing basically investigative work, detective work. It's very slow right now. So we're keeping her healthy. We currently are not, we have a no vacation policy right now, no days off. She's helped write some plans. I'm in constant communication with other police chiefs in the county, and the Police Chiefs Association has put together a disaster plan, basically, that if needed, what resources are available, and we would be able to respond to another municipality under mutual aid. So her duties are very limited right now, which, it's a result of the school being closed. But she is available. She's available in uniform.
I saw her video, YouTube video. She's staying in touch with the kids for the school. And,
Yes.
I thought that was very good because I know she has a great relationship over there with both the administration and the students and the teachers as well.
Yep. And
you want to keep that going because
Yep.
it's when we get back to normal, you don't want to lose those connections.
Correct.
But,
she's very active. Her name is out there. If you check on NBC 10, she's doing a daily Saturday morning check-in on NBC 10 on just some tips and advice for parents on what they should be looking for and how to keep their kids active. So she's a great resource, and even Channel 10 realizes that, and they use her daily.
Yeah, I saw. So I thought that was
It's pretty cool.
Paul,
Yes.
that was really
Paul,
good.
do you mind me
Yeah, that was
asking you
really
a
good.
question?
Go ahead, Mr. Brandt.
Paul, I'm fortunate to have a grandchild, 7 of them, and I guess 3 or 4 of them in high school, the rest in college. But down in Maryland, I have a granddaughter who's working with a group of students actually making masks and keeping the students busy. And they're doing this in conjunction with a class or a school activity. And I just thought you should mention that to her as for a possibility of maybe Wissahickon students, just a few, if whatever, to make and donate the mask. I'm sure we could have the material donated. Just thought I'd mention that, to pass that on
Sure.
to our sergeant.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any additional questions for the chief?
Yeah, this is Craig McAnally. I just wanted to let you know that there's a request that came in for Contact Us, just asking that Wes, speaking that they at least identify themselves so that they can follow along with the conversation.
Oh, okay. So they don't have a name for the face. Right.
Correct. They're only on the phone. So
Right. I gotcha. All right. Well, that was Paul Kenny, our chief of police. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions, additional questions for Paul, either the public or in the meeting, virtual meeting?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, Tessie, we can hear you. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, this is Tessie McNeely, one of the township supervisors. I have a question for both Paul and Frank. I'm wondering what the status of testing availability is now in the county, and are people able to go somewhere freely and get tested?
So if you all saw the news, the testing site that was at Temple Ambler, due to the high winds about a week ago, actually got blown down. They are going to be, I just saw today in the announcement, they're going to make a public announcement about the new testing site, which sounds like it's going to be up at Montgomery County Community College. From there, if you go to the Montgomery County Public Safety website, again, I should introduce myself, this is Frank Baxter. You can go there and actually there's a process to request a test. Paul, do you have anything else to add?
Well, just to add, Tessie, that we did have an officer go through the testing, and it took a while. It took a couple days to get the test, and then it took a whole 7 days to get the results. So at the end of it, he was 10 days in and feeling better. Hopefully that gets better. Towards the end there, when it was still at Temple, you were able to get in the same day. But they seem to have days when it was really busy and days when they weren't busy at all. So I imagine we're going to continue to see that same trend, but the results just are taking entirely too long. But that's been our experience. I'm knocking on wood, hoping we don't go back to them.
If I also can add is, again, this is Frank Baxter, is the process is for going through Montgomery County is you apply to be tested. That's the first step. A public health official will reach out to you, make sure you meet all the criteria, and then you're authorized to schedule a test. So it's a two-step process. And sometimes the scheduling is the one that takes a lot of time. We did have an issue with one of our members of North Penn Volunteer Fire Company needed to get tested, and it was right in the middle or right after the storm. So the recommendation was to go get tested at Abington Hospital, and that was done very quickly, and the results were back within 2 days. So possibly hospitals and healthcare clinics may be faster than going through the public one through Montgomery County.
Okay, great. Tessie, any more questions?
No.
Okay, this is Mark Gray again. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment or has a question? Okay. Next on the agenda is the receipt of the minutes from March 10th. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are accepted. Now, for the next three items on the agenda, these are the final year-end data for 2019. We have the final year-to-date budget, the final balance sheet, and the final financial statement. And we have our finance director on the meeting today. Chuck, could you summarize these if that's possible?
Sure. I have two memos with attachments. The first entitled Financial Statements, the balance sheets, and budget versus actual on the revenues expenses. It's attached to the memo. We ended the year with an excess of revenues over expenditures in the general fund of $985,712. We had anticipated the excess revenues over expenses of $555,238. So we're favorable for the year by $430,474. In my report, there, I've indicated some of the key differences on revenue and expenditures. The big item on the revenue side was that the earned income taxes came in at $267,000 more than anticipated. We budgeted there conservatively. And,
Chuck, could you speak louder if you could,
sure.
or into the mic more?
The big item there on the revenue side, is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is the earned income taxes, where we exceeded budget by $267,100. And as I mentioned, that's mainly conservative budgeting. That's always a hard number to nail exactly. Berkheimer, the IT collector, gives us a range. And, we select a number somewhere in that range, which we feel is attainable. On the expense side, which is on the second page there, you see most of the departmental expenses came in pretty close to budget. The prize goes there to Chief Kenny on a budget of $3.3 million. He was off by $8,481. That's pretty tight budgeting. Public Works budget pretty much washes out when you offset the snow and ice removal with the Public Works. We only take an estimate of how the Public Works labor gets allocated. So last year, as well as this year, was a light snow and ice year. So overall, those net to a smaller difference. That's really all I wanted to point out there. We are ending fund balance, kind of transition into the next memo, was $4,300,010. That represents 49% of the current year's budgeted expenditures. The board's fund balance policy is to maintain a general fund balance between 25% and 35%. As I just mentioned, we have a fund balance at this point of $4.3 million. So like I said, that represents about 49%. So we're well in excess of what the policy is. Last year, we brought that down. We were also well in excess of the policy. We brought that down to 41% last year at the end of last year, and transferred $1.2 million to the pension funds and the capital reserve funds, which brought us down to 41% of the 2019 budget expenditures. Right above there, I indicated if we were going to follow past practice and bring that number down to a lower number, if we brought it to 45%, the excess would be $385,588. We brought to 40%, the excess is $820,524 that we could transfer over to reserves and the pension plans and so forth down there. I'm recommending that we don't transfer any of the excess fund balance at this time. The revenues, because of the COVID situation, are kind of hard to determine what they will be for the rest of the year. We need to see what the impact is. So I would recommend that we just leave fund balance as is. That leaves us with a 49% fund balance of the current year expenditures. The other item there is the budget transfer at the end of each year after all the adjustments and accruals are in. Effectively true up the budget. There's a 2-page document there, which brings any account which is under over budget by 10% or less than, and also has a less than $3,000 difference. We adjust those numbers to the actual expenditures for the year. And that's done routinely each year. So have that there for your approval.
Okay, Chuck, could you explain to the audience briefly what a fund balance policy is and why we have it?
Well, fund balance is your accumulated surplus over time. And a fund balance policy establishes what percent of the subsequent year expenditures we would hold it in reserve. The minimum that's suggested by the Government Finance Officers Association is 16.7%, equates to 2 months expenditures. Our policy is to maintain that between 25 and 35%. And in the past, we've always taken the excess above a certain point and reinvested those funds, put those funds back in the capital reserve or pay down the pension liabilities.
Okay, so could you explain briefly how this affects our Lower Gwinnett Township's bond rating, or what impact it would have with these kind of reserves?
These kind of reserves, they would very favorably impact a bond rating.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Chuck, our finance director, Chuck Wilson? Okay. So Chuck, it looks like we covered year-end budget report, final balance sheet, final financial statement, and we really covered the budget amendments here?
Yeah, I did mention it briefly. There's a cover sheet to that. What is done each year after all the adjustments are made is that we true up the budget with the actual expenditures under Second Class Township Code. You can only spend what you appropriate. The budget is a mechanism by which the appropriations are made. So this is a true up of the budget after all the adjustments are made, so that all the expenditures have appropriated funds. And that's done before the final financial audit is released.
So how would you characterize our financial situation in Lower Gwinnett Township?
Very strong, very strong. There's not too many municipalities that'll have this kind of fund balance relative to the size of their budget.
Okay, thank you very much, Chuck, for your comments.
Sure.
And I direct my next question to Mr. Spear. There are 4 votes that we would normally have to take here. Can we do this all in one vote?
I believe they're all related to the budget and finance, that you can do them as one motion, as long as there's if any one person objects, we do individual votes on each one, but I see no problem with doing them all as one motion since they are related.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept final year budget report, final balance sheet, final financial statement, and the 2019 budget amendments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is receipt of invoice history. Chuck, could you spend a minute talking about the receipt of the invoice history?
This is a list of all the checks that were written, released February through 29th. We had a couple notes there on some unusual items, or items of note. $10,015.85 disbursement to close out an escrow account for 801 Bushtown Road. There was a check written for $109,429.45 for reduction of escrow for Cousins for LLP. And it was under $16,000 check, and $16,289.04 are written for the Ambler Sewer Authority Capital Project Fund.
Okay. And all invoices are still being processed during this time?
Yes,
And you're going into the office and maintaining your separation, I'm assuming, and all of that?
yes.
Okay, so,
Everything in the finance department is continuing to move forward. So we're not getting behind. We're obviously making payroll, processing receipts, payables. Or the next meeting, I'll have a report for the first quarter of 2020. And I'll be making some comparisons to the prior year, the date on that report. Because we're really going to need to monitor closely the revenue going forward for the next few months to see how this plays out.
okay, thank you. Is there any member of the board that has a question?
Thanks,
You
Chuck.
Say, Kathy?
I just said thank you, Chuck.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. Oh, it's gone now. Can we go back to that, the previous sheet? Yeah. Chuck, could you please explain what that middle cost is, reduction of escrow for?
It isn't a cost. The developers put up escrows, required to put up escrows for projects. We periodically receive requests through the Building and Zoning Department and the Township Engineer to reduce escrows or to close the rest escrows out. And we process those in accordance with those instructions.
Yeah, and I believe this is the carriages on Penland Pike. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, can I have a motion to accept the receipt of invoice history for $512,934.19?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the declaration of disaster for emergency for Lower Gwinnett Township. Greg, can you talk about that just briefly?
Yes, in front of you is the declaration of disaster. We had to put, well, we didn't have to, but we put this in with the county. This will help the county provide income from the state or from federal funds, and put monies aside for the county. They put all the townships together and work on a number. In order for the township to receive any money, we have to declare a disaster for emergency. We have to do this every week, as you know, Mr. Gray. I've been sending them to you for signatures every week. And so the first one was March 13th, which is in front of you. We also ratified those declarations on the March 20th, the 27th, the 3rd, and the 10th. Because we did this outside of a public meeting, we have to go back and announce this at a public meeting and accept it by the full board. Full team over their in an email form, but in a public forum, we have to still approve and accept them.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the board?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ed.
This is for Mr. Spears. Tom, is it possible or is it legal for the Board of Supervisors of Lower Gwinnett to give Mark Gray as chairperson and Danielle as a vice chair approval in advance for this disaster emergency declaration, since if I understand Craig correctly, he said it has to be done on a weekly basis. Is there anything we could pass tonight to authorize them for approval in advance?
I think you can authorize them to continue. I would recommend you authorize them the authority to continue until your next meeting, which would be in May. And at that time,
Okay.
I would also recommend that you ratify. But to make it clear, but
All right. All right. Well, that being said, I would recommend that our chairperson and vice chair continue with this weekly approval for disaster emergency, and again, ratify it in May, as recommended by the solicitor.
Thank you, Ed.
If that has to be in the form of a motion, so be it.
Thank you, Mr. Brandt. Is there anybody else that has any comments? Okay, I need a motion for approval of the declaration of disaster and emergency for Lower Gwinnett Township for the dates of March 13th, March 20th, March 27th, April 3rd, and April 1st.
April 10th, that was a misprint on the agenda.
Okay, April 10th, 2020, and April 1st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the resolution number 2020-8, which is the extension of the 2020 real estate tax deadlines. Craig, could you fill us in on that,
Mr.
please?
Chairman, can I ask a question? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go right
Can
ahead.
we have an opinion from Mr. Spears on my recommendation of approval in advance, a motion in advance
I can
on future ratifications?
I think that was done.
I think the motion that we just voted on only went through April 10th. So I think what Supervisor Brand is asking is, can we do one in advance of the future weeks leading up to our next meeting? Is that correct?
That's correct, Danielle.
For point of clarity, we haven't begun the next point of business yet. You can still take that motion.
All right.
So just so I'm clear, Tom, we have to approve the declarations after we've made them?
The process will always call for ratification because it's not done at a public meeting. You're getting a vote of confidence from the other supervisors to continue doing what you're doing. But since you can't hold a public meeting, whatever you do between today and next month's meeting must be ratified.
Okay. All right. So we have to ratify it by next month's meeting. All right. Are you okay with that answer, Mr. Brandt?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Township Manager, Craig McAnally, could you talk to us a little bit about the real estate tax deadlines?
Yes, the real estate tax deadlines. This was a recommendation from the county to extend the periods for the real estate tax for 2020 for all municipalities. In front of you was a resolution for Lower Gwinnett Township to extend the real estate tax deadlines. This resolution will show that the discount period, which was originally scheduled for April 30th, will have a new closing date of May 31st, so it'll be a month later. The face value period, originally scheduled for June 30th, will have a closing date of July 31st, another month later, and the late period would start after July 31st until the end of the year for the late period. So we're basically pushing everything back a month.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for our township manager?
Yes, Craig, do you have any recommendations on how we could inform, in particular, the small business community that's been hit so hard by this pandemic, to make them aware of this? I know it would be very difficult. By word of mouth, I have mentioned it, that this was on the agenda this evening to a few businesses, but I'm just trying to think of how we can get the word out. But
This will be on the website.
that's open for all my fellow supervisors and the staff, that question.
Yes, once we have this signed, we'll put it up on the website and on social media. But remember, this is for real estate taxes only. This will not,
Right.
yes, but we'll put it on a website and also all the social media outlets. And also
Okay.
Betty Lou Yost knows about this. Our tax collector, Betty Lou Yost, knows about this resolution in front of you tonight, and she will know about it either later on tonight or first thing tomorrow morning.
All right. Thank you.
Before we come up and speak about the next point, well, look, we need to get a a motion to accept the resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yes, sir.
All right, have a second. That's your second, Ed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution passes. One thing that came up, before we talk about the road program, one thing came up, there was a pension committee meeting, the pension board met. In that meeting, we've had a policy or more of a practice of depositing as close to the beginning of the year, what's called the MMO. That's our required contributions annually that our actuary tells us what the number is. And we have to the end of the year to deposit all those monies. And we usually deposit them closer to the beginning of the year in spring. So given everything that's going on right now, the board decided, the pension board, went along with my recommendation to hold on to those monies right now and look at how we're going to invest those per the regulatory requirements, the state laws, to how we're going to put those in, because they all have to go in by the end of the year. And so this is really informational, slight change in practice, but I thought it was important enough to let everybody know that we've made that change given our circumstances right now. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
No.
Review of the 2020 road program. Mr. Township Manager, Greg.
I'm going to defer to Jim Hirsch here. Me and the engineer from Gilmore, Jim Hirsch, spoke about this afternoon, and I'll fill in anything Jim may have forgotten.
Thanks, Craig. Jim Hirsch, Township Engineer. So we opened the bids for the road program in the middle of March, and there's two separate contracts. One is for milling and paving, and then the other one is for concrete. So the milling and paving program first, we received 8 bids, and the low bid is Highway Materials Incorporated. As Craig mentioned, we talked today, and just kind of an overview, just kind of based on the current situation and based on the unknown related to the pandemic, our recommendation is that you move forward with solely the base bid amount, and that is $303,829.45. And then let me just talk about the concrete program also here, and then I'll tie it all together on why we're kind of recommending the base bid. So the concrete program, we received 6 bids, and the low bid is McCarthy Masonry and Concrete. Our recommendation there is that you award the base bid, and alternate number 4. Alternate number 4 is additional handicap accessibility ramps along Houston Road. And the school district has indicated a willingness to pay for 18 of those ramps because they're actually outside of the township's right-of-way and wouldn't otherwise need to happen as part of the paving and concrete program. So with the reimbursement from the school district of $55,800, your cost would be $69,180. So when you add that cost for the concrete to the base program for the milling and paving, you're right around exactly what you get from liquid fuels reimbursement from PennDOT. So at that point, you wouldn't be expending much of anything except some soft costs out of your capital budget. And then also want to note that there's a third phase of this program, the paving and maintenance program, that you as a board okayed as part of your budget in your 2019 budget discussions for 2020. And that was about an extra $200,000 for what we call a Nova chip. It's an ultra thin bonded wearing course. It goes over top of about 8 additional roads. But at this point, with the unknowns related to the pandemic, there's really no downside to the township. You guys waiting a month or 2 or whatever to decide whether we want to even explore going out to bid for that additional ultra thin bonded wearing course. So at this point, the recommendation is for the base bid for milling and paving for $303,829.45, and then the concrete, the base plus alternate for $124,980. And obviously, more than happy to answer any questions.
Greg, any thoughts on our engineer's presentation?
Me and Jim Hirsch went over this. I think it's a good idea. We did already receive the liquid fuels check this year in the amount of $377,620.57. So total all in with the 2 bids for concrete and milling that were in front of us tonight is $373,009.45. So it's underneath the liquid fuels fund. Now the Nova chip is maintenance, and we can't take that out of liquid fuels anyway. That would be a maintenance problem, maintenance issue. So, and I still have to get to with the school district. I talked to them a couple of months ago when we were going out to bid. They were all on board with doing the handicap ramps all at one time, so we don't have to rip it up twice. So then they got a pretty good bid at $55,000 for 18 handicap ramps. They were the staff over there was happy with that bid. They still had to go to their board and get any approvals for that. But if we get the reimbursement for that, we will be under the liquid fuels amount for this year.
So we're gonna
recommend exactly what Mr. Hirsch suggested.
Okay. We don't need a motion for any of this, do we, Fred?
We do.
We do not, correct?
Yep, we do.
You do need a motion?
Need a motion.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I have a motion to accept the 2020 road programs bid as
So
presented.
let me just make that motion just so we're all on the same page here. We're looking for a motion to accept the low bid for the concrete work to McCarthy Masonry and Concrete out of Quakertown, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $124,980. That's the base bid and alternate 4. Also, we want to accept the low bid for milling and paving for just the base bid to Highway Materials Incorporated in Flowertown, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $303,829.45.
Okay.
A question?
Are there any questions?
Yes. I'd like to ask Jim, a question on reference to the Quakertown firm. Is he familiar with this firm doing work with other municipalities?
Yes, I am. They gave us a list of references. We called and checked all of them, and we also have worked with them in other municipalities that we represent as Gilmore. So yes.
All right, good. That's what I wanted to hear. And then another question, which could occur after this vote on the materials. So I'll pose the next question after we finish this vote.
Okay, are there any more questions? Okay, do I have a motion as our township manager described for these two bids?
So moved.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, Mr. Brandt, you had a question?
Yes, this is for Jim and also Craig. Obviously, with Houston Road being listed and scheduled on this work, and of course with the school being out, obviously it would be advantageous for us to get this work done when there's very little activity at the school, or schools, I should say. So where does that leave us from Craig or also Jim in reference to scheduling the work in the school district area, on the high school and the middle school areas?
Well, I think what we were looking at there is that we won't be as limited as we have been in the past in that area. We'd like to get it done sooner rather than later, once the paving companies can get out there and do the concrete work and do the paving. So we're hoping to have that done earlier than we have had in the past. In the past, we'd have to wait till middle of July to do anything in that area. So hopefully we get this done at a quicker rate, or an earlier rate, we'll say, than we have in the past.
Okay.
Jim, do you have anything else?
Yeah, generally the concrete program goes first. And so as soon as people can safely work, we'll get them out there and we'll get them done.
And I'll be checking
All right.
with the school district tomorrow to see when their next meeting is and if they can get approval on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. This is a time where we have citizens' comments, concerns, or questions. Are there any questions from the citizens attending tonight?
At this time, Mr. Gray, I do not see any questions or comments at Contact Us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Report from the manager. Greg?
Yes, just a couple things. A lot of it has been spoken about, so I'll try to get to the point here. The staff remains working at home and will be through April, according with the stay-at-home order. We're still answering calls and still responding to emails that come in. So I think everything seems to be working as well as it can at the time. Public Works is doing a limited crew coming in on a daily basis, and they're cutting trails and open space and parkland just to keep it maintained throughout the season. And while our landscape company gets all their members back in full force. I think Chief Kenny said that we're having a professional company coming in on Saturday to do a deep clean and disinfecting all the offices and build it in the whole building. and that'll be on Saturday. We have ordered a fogger machine. Am I correct with this, Paul?
That's correct. Yes, I'll comment after you're done, Craig.
Okay. Yeah, we ordered the fogger machine for the township. We'll be able to use that in the vehicles for the police, and we will also extend that service to EMS and the fire companies, and the township, all the township vehicles, including the police, public works. And we'll have that, we'll continue to use that throughout the years. So that's on order. I think that will be in sometime next week. I think Frank Baxter talked about the new testing facility is going on at Montgomery County Community College. I have an opening of Thursday, April 16th from 10 a.m. to 4, unless something has changed with that. That is the latest I've had. And everyone, I know, Frank and Paul and all the fire companies, everyone's doing a great job. And, hopefully we stay, as safe as we are now, and things get back to normal really quick. So, Paul, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I wanted to take this, it's a good segue for me to thank the board. After, I think the last time we met, when this was all beginning, the comment was made that, get what you need, we'll pay for it later. And we're not taking advantage of that, but we were able to secure some really wonderful things after our last conference call, Mark. We did find a company in South Jersey that protects all of the Jersey police departments and EMSs. We found a fogging machine for under $600. We found a 55-gallon drum of the chemical, which we have, that should last us almost a year. The chemical is the most expensive part. That was $1,500. We actually we have been using the chemical in a spray bottle. Obviously, when we get the fogger, it's going to be more efficient and it will do a better overall job. The building itself, I want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Steve Vincent. He works for a company called BioProtect. They're out of Philadelphia, and they're extremely busy right now. They have contracts with amusement parks, with huge office buildings, where they will go in and disinfect these facilities. They're going to do our building on Saturday for us. Steve has been a friend of mine for 30 years, and he's a friend of several of the officers. And he asked us if we would be willing to let him come in and do this for us. He's concerned and he wanted to do something good for us. So he's going to do the whole building and all of our cars. I'm going to make sure I video it. I'll send it out to everybody so everybody can see how it works. But just a shout out to the board, a big thank you. We are way ahead of our neighbors, and we're fortunate that we have not had any illness. It's all around us. Everybody in the EMS field is getting this virus, as we see nurses, doctors, police, firemen, everybody. I think we're fortunate to have the first case, if you want to call it fortunate. It got us ready and alert before it got to where it is today. So I really just want to send a thank you to the board for all of their support. I've passed that on to all the men and women of the department, and they know where it's coming from, and they actually feel very, very, very good about coming to work, and that's a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Traditionally, we've allowed the managers, the township supervisors to comment, and I was remiss last meeting we had. So I'd like any township supervisors, starting with Ed Brandt, if they'd like to add any comments.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Mark, and also Craig for holding everything together, followed up by Frank Baxter and Chief. It's great to hear the certification of disinfectants that was going to happen to the building and the cars and so forth. And I'm sure Chief Paul Kenny that this individual was certified to do that. And it's great that you're moving forward to protecting our employees, which is a requirement by the supervisors to make sure we're way ahead of the game. I want to thank Chuck Wilson for the professional report we received this evening. And also, I'd like to wish the best to Danielle, Tessie, and Kathy, my fellow supervisors, and Mark, you were in my prayers 2 weeks ago when I know that you had a scheduled wedding, and God only knows what happened there. But I just wanted to tell you you were in my prayers for hope things went as well as possible. And with that, my best to everybody, and thank you for making Lower Gwinnett what it is and continue to be in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Kath?
Thanks, Mark. I certainly second everything that Ed had to say there. Very well spoken, our elder statesman. We're all in this together. We're playing it like a team, and I'm so impressed and so proud and thankful for all the work that everybody is putting forth. And Paul, if you could possibly speak to, I know that you've had some wonderful support from the local restaurants in bringing food and et cetera down to the police department. Have you been getting a lot of, I hope, community support otherwise? And if you could share some of that with the rest of the board who might be unaware of how our community is really rallying around the police department.
Yeah, I hesitate to list all the businesses that have come forward with food. It starts with Arpeggios, Tony Roney's, Rich's Other Place, El Dorgino, Fireside, and then numerous residents who have called or emailed me with give me a date and a time, and they're dropping food off, from cookies, cards. It's been incredible. And residents that I don't even know just calling saying, do you need anything? 2 residents have dropped off N95 masks. I did a Facebook thank you for the first one. The whole community, and the best part of the whole community so far has been everybody seems to be listening and they're staying home. So that part of it's been wonderful. But I am keeping a list, and I do send out personal thank you notes to everybody. So I'll form a list and I'll send it out to everybody.
Yeah, well, that's great. Thank you. And that's what makes Lower Gwinnett Township such a special place to live. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Danielle?
I had to unmute myself. Thank you. I want to echo everything Kathy and Supervisor Brand had said.
Comments, Danielle?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
Danielle.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I just wanted to echo what Kathleen and Ed said about we're very appreciative of all the camaraderie, the teamwork that has been exemplified in the township and through the police and fire and EMS. I just wanted to share, I guess I had seen on social media various elderly residents or seniors reaching out and asking for help, and how quickly our community kind of rallied behind them and went above and beyond to make sure that they got what they needed. Separately from that, a couple residents have reached out to me and just said if anyone is in need, they'll be happy to do grocery shopping or pharmacy runs. So I just wanted to share that information. They kind of wanted us to let them know, or just let the public and community in general know, that there is an opportunity for people that you know and your neighbors to go run errands for you, to go grocery shopping, or to do anything like that. So I was going to forward that information to Craig, because it just kind of really happened between yesterday and today. And I also wanted to ensure that we put up on the website, the Department of Aging kind of released a report or a brochure and a guide to help seniors as they're getting through the pandemic and this situation overall. And it has resources and opportunities for them to get extra help and get any supports that they would need. So just know that we're here to assist, and just how much we appreciate that everybody's coming together and working together.
Thank you, Danielle. Tessie.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I would like to second all the thank yous that have been expressed by the other supervisors. I really want to give a shout out to Craig, particularly for keeping the township building moving forward, and he's shown real leadership. I appreciate that very much. I also appreciate all the men and women in our emergency services who have really made me feel secure and good about our community. So thanks to everybody, and thanks for pulling this Zoom meeting tonight so that we could get back on track with our supervisor meetings and business. And my best wishes to all those in the community who have lost a loved one to this disease. So thanks.
Thank you. Boy, it's tough to, where do I start after that? Our fire service, we have 2 fire companies in Lower Gwinnett Township, and they respond, and I want to say it's 600 calls each a year, not all of them in Lower Gwinnett. And they're in the 2 boroughs, North Wales and Ambler, and that's where our fire service is. Volunteers, and they're all volunteers, come from. And Frank Baxter has been a member of one of those. For how many years have you been there, Frank, in the fire company?
Do I have to admit it?
Yes, you do.
35.
35, just getting started, right? So Frank is our director of emergency services for things like this, like what's going on right now. Our police service, I mean, we have the most educated police department in certainly the county and maybe the state. I don't know. Paul, what do you think? The whole state?
We're probably second to none there.
Yeah, second. No, we have one doctorate. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, so how many police departments have a doctorate? So we have a very motivated group of professionals. In our ambulance service, same there. I mean, they're on the front lines, taking these people to the hospital or getting them care, and they're putting their health at risk. Think about all the goodness that they've done, the volunteers have done. And our staff is keeping the township running in a very unexpected course of events. And then we have a large healthcare residence here. A lot of people don't know that, but Merck is right up the street, and we're a bedroom community from Merck, and Janssen's right around the corner. And Janssen is a substantial pharmaceutical company, and they're doing research in Lower Gwinnett. And SHIP, the old Dow property, they have a number of biotech firms in there, including Janssen. And they're all doing a lot of research and development. And that's part of the Lower Gwinnett legacy. We have this diverse group of people who are willing to, put themselves at risk and make a difference. So I can only say thank you so many times to all these people, but we're very fortunate to live here. We're very fortunate to have such good people working and volunteering for everybody. Let's keep up the good work. And again, to our EMS community, if you need something, let us know. We're here to help. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Be safe.
Good night.